Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, where small change can mean big money, and every old coin might just hold a fascinating story, and maybe even a fortune. Today, we're diving deep into one of America's most beloved and collected coins, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. But we're not just talking about any Lincoln cent, we're shining a spotlight on a very special version of it, the 1952 wheat penny with a mint mark. It may look small and humble, but you'll want to stick around, because by the end of this video, we're revealing just how valuable this tiny copper coin can be today. Let's just say it might make your jaw drop. So grab a magnifying glass, check your piggy bank, and settle in, because we're about to uncover the secrets, the design, the errors, the variations, and the big money behind the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Let's start with some background. The Lincoln cent first rolled off the presses in 1909, created to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Prior to that, most American coins only had representations of liberty. But with Lincoln's towering legacy as the president who led the country through the Civil War and abolished slavery, he was a fitting choice. Fast forward to 1952. The United States is post-World War II, entering the Cold War era. The country is booming with industrial growth, patriotism is high, and pennies are everywhere, used in soda machines, parking meters, and of course, filling up the jars and pockets of everyday Americans. But even in such an everyday item, special versions can exist, versions that collectors dream about. And the 1952 wheat penny is one of those coins that deserves a second look. Now let's talk design, because the details on this coin are packed with meaning. On the obverse, or front side, you have the classic profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. This design, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, has stood the test of time. Just under the phrase, "In God We Trust," you'll see Lincoln's determined face, a face full of history, struggle, and triumph. To the left, the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date, 1952. Just below that date, depending on where your coin was minted, you may see a small letter, D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. And if there's no letter at all, it was minted in Philadelphia. On the reverse side is where this penny gets its nickname, the wheat penny. Two stalks of wheat curl along the edges, framing the proud words, 1 cent and United States of America. Just above that, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. This design was meant to emphasize strength through unity, a powerful message after 2 world wars. Now here's where things get really interesting. While millions of Lincoln pennies were produced in 1952, not all pennies are created equal. In fact, some rare variants and conditions can make this coin incredibly desirable for collectors, and yes, extremely valuable. The key here lies in 3 factors: mint mark, condition, and rarity. First, the mint mark. Coins from 1952 came from 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Denver and San Francisco versions carry the D and S marks, and among these, certain mint errors or low production variants can skyrocket in value. So check your coin closely. That tiny letter under the date could mean the difference between pocket change and treasure. Second, condition. Most of the 1952 Lincoln pennies have been circulated, and that means they show signs of wear, scratches, dull color, worn edges. But if you come across one that's in mint state, what collectors call uncirculated, with a strong strike, shiny red luster, and barely a blemish, then you're onto something special. These high-grade coins are extremely rare, and they attract top dollar at auctions. Third, and perhaps most exciting of all, errors. That's right. Mistakes can be worth money. Some 1952 Lincoln cents have minting errors that make them incredibly rare. These could include double dies, where the lettering or Lincoln's features appear slightly double due to a mistake during the striking process. Others include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or even coins struck on the wrong type of metal blank. These errors weren't meant to happen, which makes them unusual and therefore valuable. So what exactly makes a 1952 wheat penny with a mint mark go from ordinary to extraordinary? let's take the example of a coin with the S mint mark. A regular 1952 S penny in average condition is worth only a few cents. But the story changes when that same coin is found in uncirculated condition, with its original copper red glow and all details crisp and untouched. Add a rare double die error to the mix, and now you're looking at a numismatic dream. Collectors are willing to pay eye-watering prices for the right coin in the right condition, and we haven't even mentioned grading yet. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS 70 being a flawless mint state coin. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A 1952 D or 1952 S penny graded MS 65 or higher, especially if it has a deep red tone and a rare error, can command truly stunning prices at auctions and from private collectors. So you might be wondering, how do you know if your penny is one of the rare ones? First, check for that mint mark under the date. Then, examine the overall condition. Look at Lincoln's jawline, the lines in his coat, and the lettering on both sides. Are they sharp and well-defined? Is there luster left on the surface? You might want to use a magnifier or even take it to a professional appraiser or grading service to get an expert opinion. It's also important to compare your coin to images of known error coins from 1952. Look for doubling on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." If anything looks strange or misaligned, you may have something special on your hands. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One particular 1952 Lincoln wheat penny with a rare mint mark, in pristine uncirculated condition, and featuring an extremely rare error was once appraised and sold for an astonishing $85,000. That's right, $85,000 for a single penny. Incredible, isn't it? A coin worth just 1 cent when it was minted over 70 years ago could now be worth more than a luxury car, a college education, or even a down payment on a house. That's the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the mystery of history, and the possibility that the next great discovery could be sitting right in your change jar. So now it's your turn. Go check those old jars, those boxes in the attic, those forgotten piggy banks. You never know what you might find. And if you do happen to come across a 1952 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, take a closer look, you might just be holding a tiny copper fortune. Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most iconic coins ever minted in the United States, the Lincoln wheat penny. But more specifically, we're zooming in on a special year and a special version of this penny that could turn a simple 1-cent coin into something truly extraordinary. Get ready, because today we're talking all about the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, and by the end of this video, you'll see why this humble coin could actually be worth a small fortune. So stay tuned, because you do not want to miss what could be hiding in your collection or even in your spare change jar. Let's jump right in. Let's start by stepping back in time. The year is 1954. America is living in the post-war boom. The economy is strong, baby boomers are growing up, and across the country, coins are being minted and spent at a record pace. But little did people know, some of those pennies jingling in their pockets were destined to become hidden treasures. Now, the Lincoln wheat penny had already become a household staple by then. It was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, making it the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic figure like Liberty. And what a face it is, Lincoln's profile, dignified and timeless, gazing rightward with that furrowed brow and deep-set eyes. This is not just a coin, it's a portrait of a legacy. If you look at a 1954 wheat penny, the design is classically American. On the front side, also known as the obverse, you see Lincoln's head in profile. The words, "In God We Trust," stretch across the top, Liberty sits on the left, and on the right side of Lincoln is the date, 1954. But here's where things get exciting. Just under the date, you might notice a small letter, D for the Denver Mint or an S for the San Francisco Mint. If there's no mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. These tiny mint marks can make a big difference, especially when it comes to rarity and value. Now, flip the coin over and take a look at the back, the reverse. This is where the coin gets its nickname, the wheat penny. Two curved stalks of wheat wrap around the sides, framing the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. And just above, the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. The wheat design was meant to symbolize abundance and the agricultural roots of America, and the clean, simple aesthetic gives it a kind of humble power, but as we all know in the coin world, design is just the beginning. What makes a coin valuable is the combination of rarity, condition, minting errors, and collector demand. And the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, particularly those with mint marks, checks more than a few of those boxes. Let's talk rarity. Millions of Lincoln pennies were produced in 1954, no doubt. But over time, the vast majority of them were worn down through circulation. They were used in pay phones, parking meters, vending machines. Daily life wore these coins down. So finding one in pristine condition, what collectors call uncirculated, or mint state, is like finding a needle in a haystack. Even more intriguing are the mint mark varieties. Coins struck in Denver and San Francisco were sometimes subject to slight inconsistencies during the minting process. This includes double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and planchet errors. These small flaws, usually caught and discarded, occasionally made it into circulation, and when they did, they became collector gold. Imagine this: you're sorting through a pile of old coins, and you come across a 1954 D penny. Looks pretty normal. But then, under magnification, you notice the D mint mark has been punched twice, an error known as a repunched mint mark. Or maybe you find a 1954 S penny where the words, "In God We Trust," appear slightly doubled. These are real documented errors that can make a penny worth hundreds, thousands, and sometimes even more. Now, let's talk about condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale called the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade of 1 means the coin is barely identifiable. A 70 means it's flawless, no marks, perfect luster, never touched by human hands. Most circulated pennies fall somewhere in the 10 to 30 range. But a 1954 wheat penny in mint state, especially MS 65 or higher, is exceedingly rare. And when it has that original red copper color, known as red in collector circles, it becomes even more valuable. Collectors and investors alike are on the hunt for these high-grade coins. A 1954 D or 1954 S Lincoln wheat penny in MS 65 red condition can easily fetch hundreds of dollars. Add a rare error into the mix, and now you're looking at thousands. But what if you happen to own the right penny, the one that combines rarity, a perfect strike, a valuable mint mark, and maybe even a unique error? That's when things go from exciting to mind-blowing. You may be wondering, how can I tell if my 1954 penny is valuable? Start by checking for a mint mark. Look closely at the date on the coin. Do you see a small D or S underneath it? That's your first clue. Then examine the coin's color. Is it still bright red, or has it turned brown from oxidation? Look for any signs of doubling in the letters or numbers, especially around Liberty and In God We Trust. And finally, check the overall condition. Is the detail still sharp in Lincoln's hair and jawline? Are the wheat stalks still defined? If the answer is yes to some of these questions, you may be holding something rare. It could be time to have your coin graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That grade can mean the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and one that can change your life. And now, it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, one particularly rare 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, featuring a mint mark, preserved in immaculate uncirculated condition, and containing a well-documented minting error, was sold to a private collector for the staggering sum of $80,000. That's right, $80,000 for a single 1-cent coin. Just imagine, something that once bought a stick of gum now valued at the price of a luxury vehicle. That's the magic of rare coins. That's why people spend years digging through rolls of pennies, going to estate sales, checking coin shows, and searching their change for that one rare find. So if you've got a box of old coins sitting somewhere, maybe one you inherited from a grandparent, or a jar full of change collecting dust on the shelf, don't ignore it. That one penny you thought was worthless could be the very coin collectors have been chasing for decades. Today, you're going to want to stay locked in from beginning to end, because we're exploring one of the most legendary coins in American coin collecting history, the 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, you may have heard whispers about the 1955 penny. You may have even heard stories about someone finding one and making a huge profit. But today, we're diving deep, not just into the design or the history, but into why this particular year and coin is so iconic. We'll uncover the truth about mint marks, rare variations, minting mistakes, and yes, the incredible value that some versions of this penny can fetch in today's market. Trust me, you won't want to miss the last part of this video. So get comfortable, maybe grab your coin jar or that old box in your closet, because by the end of this video, you'll be inspired to check every single penny you own. Let's rewind to the mid-1950s. America is thriving. Elvis Presley is just starting to make noise, the economy is growing, and cars are big, chrome-plated, and powerful. In the middle of all this excitement, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing a coin that would become one of the most talked about pennies in coin collecting history. The Lincoln Wheat Penny had already been a staple in Americans' pockets since 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was created to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. For the first time ever, a real historical figure was honored on a circulating American coin. Since then, the Lincoln cent had become a familiar part of everyday life. By 1955, the Lincoln Wheat Penny was still going strong, featuring its iconic design. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln's right-facing profile. The words, "In God We Trust," sit proudly above his head. On the left is the word "Liberty," and on the right, the date, 1955. Just beneath the date, you might spot a small letter, the all-important mint mark. A small D indicates the coin was minted in Denver. An S tells us it came from San Francisco. And if there's no mint mark at all, it came from the Philadelphia Mint. The back of the coin is no less iconic. The reverse features two stylized stalks of wheat, curving inwards like a laurel wreath, flanking the large letters spelling out 1 cent and United States of America. Above that is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. This simple, strong design symbolized unity and the agricultural roots of the nation. Now, all of that may sound standard. So, what makes the 1955 penny so special? Why do collectors go absolutely wild over it? The answer is rarity, condition, and one very famous mistake. Let's start with the most legendary version of this coin, the 1955 double-die penny. It's arguably the most famous error coin in U.S. history. This particular mistake happened when the coin die, the steel tool used to stamp the design into blank coins, was accidentally impressed with the design twice, slightly off-center. The result? Letters that appear doubled, especially noticeable in the words, "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date, 1955. The doubling is so strong and dramatic that even a casual observer can see it without a magnifying glass. And that's exactly what happened. These error coins weren't discovered by collectors in fancy shops, they showed up in cigarette machines, soda pop dispensers, and lunch counters. Suddenly, people realized they had something strange, and possibly valuable, in their hands. The U.S. Mint caught the mistake, but not before an estimated 20,000 to 24,000 of these double-die pennies entered circulation. Over the years, many of those coins were lost, damaged, or spent unknowingly. But a few remained, cherished and preserved by collectors who understood their rarity. Now, beyond the double-die version, there are also other 1955 pennies that are valuable due to condition and mint marks. For example, a 1955 S or 1955 D in immaculate, uncirculated condition, graded MS 65 or higher, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Why? Because while these coins were mass-produced, most were used daily and wore down quickly. Finding one in mint state today is like finding a perfectly preserved time capsule from the 1950s. And of course, any 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny with a rare error, whether it's an off-center strike, die break, or misaligned mint mark, can drastically increase in value. Let's talk about grading for a moment, because this is crucial. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale known as the Sheldon scale. A coin graded MS 70 is considered perfect, full mint luster, no scratches, and crisp, sharp details. Even coins graded MS 63 or MS 65 can command high prices when the demand is right and the coin has unique features. Collectors look for color, too. A red designation means the coin still has its original copper color and luster. A red-brown coin has started to tone with age, and a brown coin has lost most of its luster. The redder and shinier your penny, the more collectors are likely to pay top dollar for it. So how do you know if your 1955 penny is valuable? First, check the date carefully. If you spot any doubling in the date or lettering, you may have hit the jackpot. Even coins that show light doubling, what's called machine doubling, can still be interesting to collectors. Then, look at the mint mark. A clean, clearly struck D or S can sometimes point to limited mintage runs or rare varieties. Finally, assess the condition. Does it look new and shiny? Are the details sharp? Has it been stored safely away from moisture and fingerprints? If your penny ticks any of these boxes, it might be time to have it professionally graded. Services like PCGS or NGC can give your coin an official grade, which adds huge credibility if you ever decide to sell or auction it. Now let's talk about market value. Over the decades, the 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny has appeared at auctions, estate sales, and in private collections, and time again, it has stunned even seasoned numismatists. There are verified cases of uncirculated, red luster 1955 Lincoln cents, especially those with the famous doubling or rare minting features, being sold to private collectors or at auction for amounts that most people would never expect from a single penny, and that brings us to the part you've been waiting for. One particular 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny, featuring a rare mint mark, preserved in pristine mint condition, and struck with an extraordinary doubling error, was once valued and sold for an eye-watering total of $78,000. That's right. $78,000 for a 1-cent coin. It's the kind of story that reminds us why coin collecting is so much more than a hobby. It's part detective work, part historical preservation, and part treasure hunt. With enough knowledge and a bit of luck, even the smallest piece of metal can become something truly life-changing. So, here's your call to action. Go check your change jars, your grandparents' coin collections, that old drawer in the attic. Look closely at those 1955 pennies. Use a magnifier. Study the date. Examine the mint mark. You never know, you might just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that looks tiny, feels ordinary, but might just be worth more than some cars, even more than a house. Yep, we're talking about the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln Wheat penny from the year 1958, and yes, we're focusing on the ones with a mint mark. Now before you rush to your coin jar or rip open that old roll of pennies sitting in your drawer, stick around, because we're going to uncover the real story behind this little copper coin, its history, what makes it so special, and just how much it's truly worth if you're lucky enough to find the right one. Let's start with a journey back in time. The year is 1958. The United States is in a period of post-war prosperity. Dwight D. Eisenhower is president, Elvis Presley is ruling the airwaves, and the average American is buying Coca-Cola for 5 cents. Meanwhile, in the U.S. Mint, something is happening, something that will go unnoticed by the general public for decades, until coin collectors, historians, and numismatists started discovering that some of the coins from this era were more than just pocket change. The Lincoln Wheat penny, also known as the Wheatie among collectors, had already been in circulation since 1909. It was the first American coin to feature a real person, President Abraham Lincoln, on the obverse, in honor of his 100th birthday. And on the reverse, of course, those two famous wheat stalks curving along the sides, symbolizing prosperity, agriculture, and the backbone of the American economy. But 1958? That was the final year of the wheat penny design. Starting in 1959, the reverse design would change to the Lincoln Memorial, in honor of the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. So, 1958 marks the end of an era, making it a special year for collectors already. Now here's where things start to get really interesting. In 1958, these pennies were minted in two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The ones struck in Denver carry a tiny D mint mark just below the year on the obverse. While millions of these were produced, over 800 million in fact, there are some key things that make certain 1958 D wheat pennies extremely valuable today. Let's talk about condition first. In coin collecting, condition is king. A coin that's been passed through hundreds of hands, rubbed down in someone's pocket, and scratched up in jars is going to be worth significantly less than one that's been preserved in mint or near mint condition. Collectors look for coins that have crisp details, strong color, no corrosion, and clean surfaces. The fewer imperfections, the higher the grade, and the higher the grade, the higher the value, but even more exciting than condition is the idea of rarity. And that's where things get really spicy with the 1958 D wheat penny. There are a handful of known error coins and rare double-die varieties that have made headlines. These are coins that, during the minting process, were struck improperly, resulting in a duplicated or distorted design, usually visible in the date, lettering, or features of Lincoln's face. These mistakes happen when the die that stamps the coin shifts slightly between impressions, creating a sort of ghost image effect. To the average person, it might just look like a blurry date or a shadowy letter, but to a trained eye, or a lucky finder, this is like spotting buried treasure. One such famous error is the 1958 double-die obverse penny, though it's more commonly found without a mint mark. That version is already famous for being one of the rarest coins in American history. But here's where it gets fascinating. There are also lesser-known error variants and rare high-grade coins from 1958 D, which have sold for stunning amounts in auctions. Now, if you're staring at a 1958 penny right now and it has a D mint mark, here's what you should look for. Is the coin in pristine, uncirculated condition? Are the letters and numbers sharp, with no signs of wear? Is there any doubling visible in the text, Liberty, or the date, 1958? Does it appear to be made from an unusual metal? Or have a strange coloration? If you answered yes to any of these, you might just have something incredibly special in your hand. You see, collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that meet these rare criteria. But there's more. Some 1958 D pennies have unique die characteristics that have only recently started gaining recognition in the numismatic world. These aren't your everyday finds. These are the coins that were likely stashed away in mint sets, forgotten in old drawers, or passed down in collections, waiting to be discovered decades later. And now we come to the part you've all been waiting for. The question that's been burning in your mind since the start of the video: how much could one of these little copper coins actually be worth? Are you ready? Hold on to your seats, because if you have a 1958 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark that's in flawless condition or contains a rare minting error, the value can skyrocket. In one notable case, a coin just like this, pristine, rare, and verified, was valued and sold for an astonishing $74,000. That's right. $74,000. For a penny. It's incredible, isn't it? A coin that most people would overlook on the sidewalk, or toss into a change jar without a second thought, could actually be the key to a small fortune. So what should you do now? Check your collection. Dig through your change. Ask your grandparents if they have any old penny rolls stored away. Head to estate sales, antique shops, flea markets, anywhere these coins might be hiding. Because you never know. You might just stumble upon a 1958 D wheat penny that changes your life, and if you think this video has blown your mind, wait until you see what we're covering next. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Today, we're about to unravel the secrets behind one of the most iconic small coins in American history, the 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from 1956. But don't let its size fool you. This little copper coin has a big story, a rich legacy, and in some rare cases, an absolutely jaw-dropping value. So grab your magnifying glass, settle in, and prepare to be amazed. Because that humble penny sitting in your drawer or change jar might just be the gateway to a fortune. And today, we're diving into the mystery, meaning, and money behind the 1956 Lincoln Wheat penny with a mint mark. Let's rewind time for a second. The year is 1956. America is riding high in the post-war era. Elvis Presley is shaking up music, drive-in theaters are packed, and cars are built like tanks. It's a golden age of optimism and innovation, and in the middle of it all, the U.S. Mint is cranking out millions upon millions of pennies, specifically, the Lincoln Wheat cent. Now let's talk about the design first. The Lincoln Wheat penny had been in circulation since 1909. That's when President Abraham Lincoln, one of the most revered figures in American history, became the first real person to appear on a U.S. coin. The obverse side of the penny shows a right-facing portrait of Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. Above him reads the phrase, "In God We Trust," with "Liberty" to the left and the year 1956 to the right, sometimes followed by a little D mint mark, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Flip it over, and you're met with two elegant wheat stalks curving inward from both sides of the coin. In the center, it boldly reads, 1 cent and United States of America. Just above that, E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning, out of many, one. This design is simple, yet it's symbolic of strength, unity, and America's agricultural roots. It's no surprise collectors refer to these as Wheaties or Wheatbacks. But here's what makes the 1956 Wheat penny special. This was the second to last year the wheat design was used. In 1959, the reverse would be changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial in honor of Lincoln's 150th birthday. That means 1956 is one of the last years of a classic design that spanned half a century. Now, let's talk mint marks. In 1956, the U.S. Mint produced pennies at two locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If your penny doesn't have a mint mark under the date, it came from Philadelphia. But if you see a tiny D beneath the 1956, congratulations, you're holding a coin that was minted in Denver. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, but here's the twist, not all of them are created equal. You see, in the world of coin collecting, there are three key factors that determine a coin's value: condition, rarity, and uniqueness. And when all three come together in one coin, that's when things get exciting. Let's start with condition. A penny that's been jostled around in pocket change for decades won't be worth much more than face value. But a penny that has been kept safe in a coin flip, untouched by wear, with a perfect shine and no scratches? That's what collectors call mint state or uncirculated. These coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and a grade above 65 can dramatically increase the value. Now factor in rarity. Even though hundreds of millions were made, only a small percentage have survived in mint condition. The rest were spent, lost, melted down, or simply forgotten. Every year that passes, these pristine examples become harder and harder to find, and then there's the wild card, unique features. These are things like mint errors, doubling in the lettering, die cracks, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes. These tiny imperfections, made during the minting process, can turn an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind collectible. For example, a 1956 D penny with a visible double die obverse, where parts of the text appear duplicated, is like finding gold. These are incredibly rare, and collectors go wild over them. There's even a category of pennies with what are called RPMs, or repunched mint marks. This happens when the D mint mark was stamped more than once, slightly offset. These little quirks, when verified by experts, can drive the price way beyond what you'd ever expect a penny to be worth. So what should you look for? First, inspect the condition. Is it shiny with no visible wear? Next, check for oddities in the lettering or date. Is anything doubled, crooked, or strangely shaped? Look closely at the mint mark. Does it look like it's been punched twice or slightly overlapped? If so, you might be looking at a coin worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars, and believe it or not, these rare variations do exist. People have found these 1956 D wheat pennies at estate sales, tucked inside old albums, or even at the bottom of a forgotten coin jar. What looks like a regular old penny can sometimes be a powerful hidden gem. now let's talk about grading. If you think your penny might be valuable, your first step is to get it graded by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies have professional numismatists who evaluate the coin's authenticity, condition, and rarity. A coin that's graded and slabbed becomes easier to sell, easier to insure, and far more appealing to high-end collectors. And speaking of collectors, the demand for Lincoln wheat pennies has been steadily rising. New collectors are entering the hobby every year. They're searching for key dates, mint errors, and high-grade examples to complete their sets. That's driving up prices, especially for rare varieties in exceptional condition. Alright, now it's time for the grand finale. The moment you've been waiting for. After all this talk about design, history, mint marks, errors, and condition, you're probably wondering just how much this small, copper coin could actually be worth. Well, prepare yourself, because if you have a 1956 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, in pristine, uncirculated condition, and especially one with a rare double die or minting error, its value could soar far beyond your wildest expectations. In fact, one such coin, verified by professional graders and confirmed as a rare mint variety, has been valued at an astonishing $72,000. That's right. 1 cent, turned into $72,000. Just imagine stumbling across that coin in your childhood collection or finding it in a forgotten drawer. That's not just spare change, that's a life-changing discovery. So what are you waiting for? Go check your change, dig out those old jars, call your grandparents, visit some flea markets or coin shops. The next great find could be waiting for you to uncover it. If this story lit a spark in you, don't forget to hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another rare coin reveal. And hey, if you have a 1956 penny in your collection, let us know in the comments. You never know who might be sitting on a hidden fortune. Thanks for watching, and remember, every coin tells a story. Some just happen to end in $72,000. Until next time, happy collecting and good luck treasure hunting.